Ian. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the time. How you doing today, man?
Good. Thanks for having me and a great looking studio you got there. I need to steal that.
Thank you. I had a guy build me a background, and yeah, I'm really happy with the end result. It was not cheap, but I think in the end, it accomplished what I was hoping for, and that's to do something other than sitting in front of some bookcases with some cheap stuff on the shelves.
That thing looks fly.
Thank
Like,
you, thank you. Did I see correctly that you were actually in Austin a couple weeks ago?
yeah, but it was just
Cap
for
City?
it was like a three guys headlining one night, one show at Cap City. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you, Brett Ernst, and somebody else, right?
yeah. Damn, Mike Young.
Mike Young, that's right.
Yeah,
You are no stranger to the city at this point. I want to say this is your third time to headline at the Comedy Mothership coming up this weekend.
yeah.
Does Austin feel a little bit like a second home to you at this point, considering how often you seem to be here?
Absolutely. Because Rogan is there, Tony's there, a bunch of other comics are there that used to work at the Comedy Store as comics that used to work there before their careers got better, and they just do straight up comedy, and which is a rite of passage at the Comedy Store. The staff, I know a lot of the staff there. They're from the Comedy Store. Like I can go to Austin, just walk down the street and run into somebody I know. Austin is also like it's like a comedy festival that goes on all year, where every comic kind of goes there, and then you run into people that you didn't expect to be there. So it always has like a comedy festival vibe for Austin.
Everybody knows about those biggest names. Who are some of those guys, or maybe even guys and gals who hadn't quite made it at the Comedy Store, but have done really good things since they moved to Austin that you're thinking about?
Brian Simpson was on his way to doing well before.
Oh, yeah.
Tony was doing fine, but I think it's a next level now. You
Yeah.
know, Derek Poston, Hassan, Trey Stewart, and then my memory stinks, so people are just going to think, "Oh, he didn't say my name," but it's it's more that my memory is terrible that I can't remember. There's more, but
Yeah.
there's people I didn't know that are thriving there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Now,
Yeah. Well, but with that comes all sorts of fun and new opportunities for people in LA too.
yeah, yeah, for sure. There's a lot of new people in LA. It's just I'm just trying to get the. It's just tough to get the fires out of the back of my mind, like it's there. Like LA just be taking hit after hit. So, but we're bouncing back. We're dealing with it.
So you can still feel that collectively around the city as everybody is just pretty bummed out, understandably, over that horrific disaster from a month ago.
Yeah, I feel like people are like just pushing on. That's what people do. You just put that in the background and keep it moving it forward. But we'll see if we'll be able to do that this time. Like I'm becoming more pessimistic.
Oh, are you actually considering making a move elsewhere?
Not really, but I'll be like, damn, is California gonna make it through all of this? You know what I mean? Yeah.
There's obviously, and I think you're in this category. There's a bunch of New York transplants in California now. I bet there is a shared sort of healing that is going on right now that folks who were in and around New York City for 9/11 had to go through, and obviously the month afterward, but months, weeks, years it took in some cases for people to finally feel okay again.
Yeah, I was there for that. I was there in New York for 9/11. I had already moved to LA, but I missed New York so much. I was always there.
Hmm.
So even the day before 9/11, 9/10, like there's some comics in New York. I used to live with them in Jersey City. So Wilson Vince had like a party at his house on 9/10. So you take the PATH train, you go to the world, or you take whatever train you take to go to the World Trade Center to switch to the PATH train to Jersey. So I was in the World Trade Center on 9/10, like, but because I was living in LA, like I appreciated New York more when I went back. So I would like just slow down and just take everything in. I was like checking out the World Trade Center, seeing things that I never seen before, like the architecture and just how the place was made. I was like, man, they put a lot of detail into this. I never noticed this before. No, I mean, just running from gig to gig, you never get to like check it out. So that's something I was doing in New York. So then when I woke up that morning, my sister was like, hey, man, a plane hit the tower. I was like, what? And I was like, damn, I was in that building the day before checking it out. I was checking it out like when a woman with a nice body walks by. I was just checking out the whole place.
So it's interesting you say that because I think naturally we as people, we take for granted our surroundings
Yeah.
until we go someplace else and we don't have that anymore. Like I grew up my entire life in Texas until the age of 30, and then I moved out west to Oregon. In Oregon,
Mm,
the Cascade Mountains, that's a beautiful part of the country, but you realize just what you're missing out on when it's no longer around. And that way, when I ultimately worked my way back to Austin after living in Chicago for several years, there was a newfound appreciation for this city, on top of the fact that over the last 20 years, Austin has blown up like very few other cities have. Like it used to be a cool town,
mhm.
but it was a cool town with limited options. And now you've got great food everywhere. It's obviously become a sort of third coast for comedy. It's always had the live music thing going for it, but it's like it's been taking performance enhancing drugs for the last 2 decades and is performing as at as high a level as humanly possible right now.
Yeah, Austin is dope. I always look forward to coming there because of all the things I mentioned to you before. It's just a fun, vibrant place, and it like you said, it always had the potential, and I enjoyed it with the potential, and then now like it's expanded to become even more. Yeah, it's dope, you know.
Other than the people that you knew in California that you'll just run into walking around the city, is there anything else that you try and make it a point to do or eat or go see anytime that you're here?
Yeah, I like to like go on Congress, South Congress,
Oh yeah.
and just take that walk down there, uh, stand on the bridge, check out the bats. Uh, I've never been on the lake because I can't swim, so I ain't taking no chances like that. So I don't
Well,
want to.
look, Ian, you don't want to be on or anywhere close to that water anyhow. That water is disgusting. I watch people paddleboard on that lake. I'm like, are you people out of your mind right now? But new people come in and they don't know any better.
Yeah, people see water and they're like, just jump in it. I'm like, yo, it's brown. Brown is never good. You know what I mean?
Did you say you don't know
Also,
how to swim?
nah,
Any desire to learn?
nah,
No?
yeah.
Good.
I tried when I was a kid. It didn't take. I'm good.
So you almost drowned as a kid, and so you still have PTSD all these years later? Is that what?
Nah, we was kids. We had swimming lessons. I wasn't floating. I was like, all right, this is just not for me. I'm good. Floating is not my thing.
At least you understand your limitations of the things that you don't want anything to do with. Like, I don't like heights. So if I can avoid getting on a ladder, or even going to the like a second story of something, I'm not going to do that.
Exactly. Would you like me to teach you how to like heights? No, you just don't like them. So you don't want to do it.
There's also that mindset of trying to do that which scares you or that which worries you the most because it makes you stronger as a person.
I
And I
don't
do
believe
subscribe to that in a sense, but there's certain things that I'm just not willing to put myself in harm's way with. Like the unsecured heights things, like I have no problem in airplanes.
that.
I'll fly anywhere, everywhere. The flight is one of the great human inventions. It allows us to get so much further and see so much more of this world than we would otherwise. But that's a secure height right there. If you're talking about being, I don't know, even like on top of a tall bridge where you're looking down to a ravine below, I have no desire to look over the edge right there.
Right. Like, why would I put myself in that situation? A lot of people say it makes you stronger. I think it's stronger to say no, I'm not doing it. That's strength. To resist the peer pressure to do some shit that you don't want to do. That's strength.
I feel like I have not seen a new special out of you in a minute. Any plans in the near future to record something new, or are you still working up to that right now?
Nah, it's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. So I shot one in August
Okay.
in LA at the La Jolla Comedy Store, and it's almost finished being edited. So hopefully within the next few months, definitely before summer, that we could drop it. And then I've been working on new material, so I'll be doing some of that new material when I get to Austin. And I'm coming in early too. I'm coming in tomorrow. I don't know when you're going to put this out. So I'll just be going around town doing like 15, 20-minute spots until I do the weekend and do like the whole, 45 an hour.
Okay, so you're going to be popping in at the mothership at sunset at Creek
Yeah.
in the Cave. Maybe you're just going to be working material out. That's a great opportunity for people to check you out who maybe don't have a chance to go see you at the mothership this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna just pop in and just do whatever guest spots I can get and do, and then, keep it moving.
Well, I'm excited because I've seen your stand up before. I mean, I've watched past specials. I see the clips all over the place on social media. I've never actually seen you live, but a
Hmm.
friend and I are going to get to go to the early Saturday show.
All right.
And all that was left was booth seating. So it's just my buddy and I going to be sitting in booths. They squeezed four people into those booths. It's a little bit too tight for four dudes, maybe two guys and their dates. But yeah, we're going to go hang out and watch the early show. So I'm excited about that. As it stands right now, there's only tickets left for that Sunday show, which may make sense based on the fact that the Oscars are on Sunday. Bonnie McFarlane did a Sunday show during the Super Bowl a couple weeks back.
Hmm.
And I gave her huge props for trying to make that happen. She's like, I didn't know. I feel like the Sunday show this Sunday will be sold out though because there is less of a crowd to watch the Oscars than there is the Super Bowl from a couple weeks back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What is the last good movie that you saw?
Oh, that's a good question too, because I do have a really good answer. And so there's a movie called A Better Man, and it's a Robbie Williams story.
Hmm.
And do you know Robbie Williams?
The singer?
Yeah,
Huh.
because I barely, I was here. So he was a star in England, but every star in England doesn't translate to here. But I get he's international, but I still didn't like grow up on his music or nothing like that. But a friend of mine, a comic, Mark Hayes, is a friend of his.
Hmm.
And so they invited us to the screening, and I'd seen the trailer. And in the trailer, it's a biopic, but Robbie is being played by a monkey. And yeah,
What?
exactly. Yeah, Robbie is a monkey. CGI, I don't even know how they did it. He's a monkey the entire movie. Everybody's human. So I'd seen the trailer, and whenever, like for me, let me not speak for all black people. I always feel like, what's, there's always this uneasy feeling like, why is this person using a monkey, to in this movie to beat him? It's just, it just gives you weird vibes. You know what I mean? But because it was a screening, I like, I'll go see it in screening. Let me tell you something, man. That movie, that monkey was perfect, bro. It's a lot of movies, they'll get you emotional. First of all, no movie gets me emotional. Like I'm stoic. That's, but, and a lot of movies, you need all the information up to the end to get you to that emotional moment.
Oh yeah.
But that movie got you emotional 10 minutes in without even all the details. Like that's how much that monkey slayed as Robbie Williams. And I was like, I get it. I get it.
It is a shame that primates have a racist connotation to them because the monkey is one of the great animals in the history of this world.
Right.
Like I feel like in a different world where that connection wasn't made, there'd
Yeah,
be
in
some,
another universe.
yeah, another universe. There'd be some badass monkey mascots in sports, you know?
Yeah.
You can't do that now though.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah.
Maybe on like the live golf tour or something.
So
So you mentioned Robbie Williams being from the UK.
uh-huh.
You are notorious as a big time soccer fan, not just that, a big Premier League fan. I'm trying to remember, are you a Man U fan?
Yeah,
Or are
I'm
you
a
just
Man
somebody
U
who
fan,
loves
but
watching the sport?
you don't have to bring it up. We're doing bad right now. So you don't have to like call me out like that.
Well, that's what I was about to ask because I follow soccer very passively, and a lot of it has to do with playing the FC 25 video game on my son's Xbox. Like the soccer video games have always been incredible. I'm not the biggest
Yeah.
soccer fan, but if real life soccer was like a soccer video game, I would probably be a bigger fan of soccer than I am American football. But I only follow based on like playing with the best teams from the Premier League or playing in the Champions League or something like that. So what is going on with Man U right now?
You know, you just made me think of like Bobby Lee is an Arsenal fan and he got into being an Arsenal fan through the video game, you know? And I can just imagine people who are passively following the Premier League and they always won their video game league with Man United. And then all of a sudden they're like, why is Man United getting beat by Man City? Why is Man United getting beat by or by Southampton on the video game? Like, what's going on? Like, it makes them have to like take a look into the real world of soccer to say, oh, this I got to change this team. I can't use this team. It's just a mess. It's just a perfect mess. Like anything that could go wrong at a club that used to be at the top is going wrong. Like everything that used to go perfectly right magically is going wrong just for the sake of it. And like when you think one thing bad happened, then another thing bad happens. And it just the club is just crumbling and getting worse on the pitch. And even though there's people working hard to try to pull it together on the pitch, you've seen American sports. Sometimes when it's your time to go down, you're just going down. It's like the universe said, hey man, you had a lot of good luck. It's time for some bad luck. And that's what's happening.
Did it start with Ronaldo leaving the team or did it begin before that?
Nah, it started when we last won the league in like 2013, and that was Alex Ferguson's last year. And also, football changed a lot. Like back then, Alex Ferguson, he was the head coach, he was a manager, and he would like had this other guy. I think his name was David Gill, and they would like, let's get that player, let's get that player, you know. And then both of them left, and the Glazers owned the club, so they hired this guy who was good with finances. So he raised the club's revenue up, but he was also like the football director, and he would just buy players and just say, all you gotta do is get good players, and you know that's logical in baseball, in football, American football, and basketball, but that shit it doesn't always work like that. You need to have the right manager there at the right time for the players that are there. And we've just been playing sliding doors with players and managers, like the wrong managers at the wrong time for the certain type of players and vice versa. And then it causes a lot of disharmony. People ain't players. Like there's one player, his name is Marcus Rashford. He scored 30 goals one season, and then last season and the beginning of this season, just not, you could tell, just he's just not into it. Mm. Then he got loaned to Aston Villa because we're like, we can't just have him here paying him £350,000 a week, and he's not delivering. Maybe let's see if he'll do it somewhere else. And he goes to Aston Villa, has 2 assists this weekend. Like he ran onto the pitch for Aston Villa in his first game with more enthusiasm than he's played for us the entire season. So it's just a mood, bad vibes thing. Like in the locker room, in the offices, it's just a funk, man. It's just a funk.
It's such a difficult thing because you can spend all the money in the world, but if there isn't a cohesion from player to player on that roster, and if you don't have good leadership at the top, none of it matters.
Right.
Cited some of those other sports where, like the Dodgers are maybe the best example right now. The Dodgers are really good at going out and spending a lot of money to get the best talent, but they also do a good job of integrating those guys into that Dodgers way, right? But there are a lot of other examples over time of teams trying that and them just having this bloated payroll and very little else to show for it. Like they may make the occasional postseason appearance, but they're not coming close to sniffing a championship. It has to hurt Man U fans a little bit more also watching the successes that Man City has had, especially because they've gone about it by just essentially money whipping some of the best players in the world to create this all star team. But then again, it's not an exact science because what has happened to them this year?
Right. Well, they finally are getting theirs. Like they're finally like they had this cycle where they got everything perfectly right.
Yeah.
And then so one of their players got injured, and one of the players that they bought a few years ago that was going to replace or help this player out, he's failed, and they had to ship him out on loan. And then the players from the successful cycle, because they won the treble, they won the double, they just kind of aged out like right in front of their very eyes. Because last year they won the league. So this year you're like, there's nothing going to be wrong with these guys. And then the coach can't fix it. Like this is the most competent coach. Like he could be called the best coach in football history. And to see him like Pep Guardiola just lose and not be able to fix it and like confess that is like something you never thought you would see. Like, how is this even possible? So it's just like they're just going through their period. Just started like around December. They were fine before that. We beat them, and we're bad.
So you think Pep is better than Sir Alex all time?
Uh, it's comparable.
Hmm.
It's tough for me to say it, but Pep did it in multiple leagues. He did it in Spain. He won the Bundesliga like 4 times, and he pulls up to England. He didn't win the first year, but he's won probably 5 times in 6 or 7 years in England, plus the treble. Like he's his resume is pretty. It's up there. It's up there with Alex,
Hmm.
Sir Alex.
So this show is called The Sport of Life, and I
Mhm.
named it that because sport is a sport, obviously, but life is also a sport too. And I'm trying to end these interviews now with a couple of different questions along those lines. And this is, of course, dependent on whether a person is a sports fan or not. But what is the greatest victory that you've experienced as a sports fan?
There's been a bunch of them, to be honest. So it's tough to like, you know, just because I would hate to just have one great victory. That means I would have lost a lot. So I like to have like a lot of good things to like look back on. One of the last ones was last year. We had a terrible season, Man United, and we made it somehow to the FA Cup final. And that final was against Man City, and they had just won the treble the year before, and included in the treble, they had beat us in the FA Cup final. So we both make it back to the FA Cup final. Right before the FA Cup final, a day before, is a big news story in all the papers that Man United is going to fire their head coach, whether he wins the FA Cup final or not. So this our coach is going into this game with this hanging over his head against the best team in Europe, against the best team in England, and our crosstown rivals. And we win. We win the FA Cup final. Like somehow, that's the day the players brought it all together. The coach galvanized the team, even though he was a dead man walking. It's first of all, it was tough to win the game anyway, but to win with the media and everybody knowing that you're going to get fired, like why would the players even like do this for him, or how would he get them to do it for him or do it together? So to me, that was the latest one.
I like how you gave the most recent. That shows a sort of forward-thinking philosophy out of you, a sort of stoic philosophy, if you will, back to a reference from a little bit earlier. All right, what's the toughest defeat that you've ever had to deal with in sports, either for you personally playing sports or a team that you love?
Every year Michael Jordan was in existence, because I'm a Knicks fan,
Yeah.
and it was just you know what it's like. You're not able to Joy the greatest player up to that point in basketball history because he hurts your team. Like our way into the NBA finals was through the Bulls. And if you ain't going through the Bulls at some point in the Eastern Conference playoffs, you ain't getting to the finals. And then to have, Patrick Ewing is not just a Knicks player, but he's also Jamaican. I'm Jamaican. So to have that even more of a connection in that period of time with the Knicks and to, like, all right, we're going to try to win. And you just know there's no way through the Bulls. So like every one of those playoffs, or just when they came to the Garden and beat us there, or when we go to Chicago, and then Chicago treats their regular season games when Jordan was there like it was a final. There'd be fireworks. They dim the lights, then and then they have this big show presentation for all their players. And I'm like, why don't we do that? Like maybe to hype us up. Like they just come there and just beat us and just leave, and then we come there we have to watch a celebration of them beating us before we even play. It was just humiliating and shit.
I have to say, I like Knicks fans a lot. You guys are obviously you're starved for some postseason success. So as the Knicks have gotten better over these last few years, Knicks fans just embrace all of it. And, maybe you go a little bit overboard at times when we're winning one game in a series that's still undecided. But Knicks fans they just want to be able to celebrate something because there's been a whole lot more bad than good, it feels like, this century.
Uh, and when you say century, you couldn't have been more dead on. It's just been a rough century for Knicks.
Okay, last two questions now, then, based on that. We just talked about the sports side, but as far as the life side is concerned, what is a tough L that you experienced in life, and what was the lesson that you took from that?
So I had a condo in Reseda, and one night I was home, and water started coming down. You know, like through the light fixtures, down the stairs, through the ceiling. Like, what the hell's going on?
Hmm.
Then I ran upstairs, and I had a roommate. Like it's a 2 bedroom, 2 bath. So he was like, a knock on his door. He was knocked out. I opened his door. He's laying on his bed. There's water all on the floor. and I go to this bathroom, and it's coming out the toilet, right? It's coming out the toilet. So I'm like, yo, Tommy. And he's, and he puts his foot down off the bed into the water. He's like, what the hell? And then shut off the toilet. And then that's the first place I ever owned. And I, yeah, what do I do? Call the landlord? And I was like, shit, I am the landlord. I was like, how am I going to take care of this? Like, normally you just call the landlord and they just send somebody to fix it. And then I was just there, just taking it in. Like, and I had insurance, but that stuff doesn't really hit you. And then I went down for a minute, and then I was like, all right, calm down. I got insurance. Uh, you know what? I'm gonna call them, and I'm gonna fix this place better than it was because of this. And that's what I did. So
Oh, wow.
that let me know that you might get hit with something, but there's something in there, like a lesson or just something that you needed to do. It's like if you're trying to bench and you're trying to bench more than you can, but the only way to know if you can bench that amount is to go harder than you can. So I learned that from that.
So that forced you to channel your inner Bob Vila then.
Yeah.
So based on that, then, what is one of your greatest W's in life?
There's been a few, It's just, and some of them they're not like pronounced, you know, but just just and like here's one related to Austin, like knowing Rogan, you know, he's a good guy. He's helped out a lot of people, and me knowing him goes back to being a New York City comic, being at the Boston Comedy Club, and he'd come from Boston, and the Boston Comedy Club was in New York City in the Village, and we both were new comics there. We both got in there around the same time, and we'd like kick it in, do shows, then there'd be two shows, and I'd kick it in between shows, and then to do comedy and just be able to relate to each other, you know? And two guys from different walks of life. He's from Boston, I'm from England, Jamaica, and now New York. And I just started doing comedy. And then Rogan left, went and did news radio, moved to LA, hadn't seen him in like 10 years. And then I end up in LA and I run into him in LA. Then we become friends in LA because we're both at the Comedy Store. So then we start our comedy club friendship relationship, go on tour with him, do shows with him. And then now he has this club in Austin and he moved to Austin and I'm able to come there and have a second home just from knowing some guy that I ran into in a club, a Boston comedy club in New York, you know? Like to me, that's a win. And just all the associations with being a regular at the Comedy Store and all the stuff the Comedy Store has given me. I'm able to tape a special at the La Jolla Comedy Store and just, you know, like just becoming a regular at the Comedy Store, to be honest, was like the win. It just connected like a lot of different avenues in my life in one direction. And also at the Laugh Factory and the Improv, it gets you into all of those places. They, you know, they respect you because you're there, and then you get to show them that you belong there, and they accept you and embrace you too. And then you now, and just having a home in LA to perform at, so that you're not like, why am I here? You know. So
Guessing when you were at the Boston all those years ago, you did never expect stand-up comedy to lead you to a point where you were doing a show that ended with Steven Tyler putting his arm around you to take a picture on stage.
right, exactly, 100%. You know what I mean?
That is wild. He is Ian Edwards, such a funny comedian. Guess what? You've got opportunities to see him all week. We were talking on Monday. He's going to be here tomorrow performing, not, well, maybe a little bit at the Comedy Mothership, but all around town. There's so many great comedy clubs in this town. You have a chance to check him out doing 10 to 15 minutes. And there are still tickets to that Sunday show at the Mothership. Go to comedymothership.com to snag those. Ian, it is always a pleasure getting to talk with you, man. Thank you so much for the time. Safe travels to and from this week.
Thank you, man. I'll see you there. All right.